Hello again, Jim Dowson here, guest presenter with Knights Templar emergency broadcast for the COVID-19 84 debacle. And today we're going to have a special guest on, Mr. Nick Griffin. So before we come to him, I'd like to welcome everybody in the room. I'm not going to go through the list individually because I've got a lot to cover today, but everybody who's come into the room, God bless each and every one of you, and you are welcome here. Thank you very much. Remember, as usual, try and use your real names. This station is for grown-ups, for men, and for women, and we like to use our own names. And remember, like the video, click subscribe, press the bell, comment below. And obviously we use names for simple reason, because we're not frightened of the lefties. And if you're frightened of being doxxed, this is probably the wrong channel for you, okay? But I'm going to start off today, before we come to Mr. Griffin, with a wee bit of scripture. As I said, we're going to stay in Romans all this week, so it's Romans 1 again. I like Romans 1, you'll know why. Romans 1, and we're going to read from verse 26, okay? Romans 1 verse 26. For this cause God gave them up to vile affections, for even their women did change the natural use into which is against nature, and likewise also the men, leaving the natural use of the woman, burned in their lust one to another towards men with men, working that which is unseemly, and receiving in themselves that recompense of their error which was met. Amen. May God bless the public reading of his own infallible, inerrant and inspired word. I don't have to explain that passage, it's very, very clear. So any of these modern liberals tell you that all these things about homosexuality is all in the Old Testament. Well, there you go, I'm in the New Testament, Romans 1. Tell me to read it. Doing them all the good. Anyway, how are you, Mr. Griffin?
I'm fine, thank you, Mr. Nelson.
Good to see you. Now, tell us this, what do you want to talk about today?
I'd like to talk about the world's latest new country, Chaz, aka 5 or 6 blocks in Seattle.
Oh, very good. Right. Well, what are we going to do? We're going to have, I know you've got some photographs for us to show. Do you want us to talk us through these?
Yes, let's put the first one up, Mr. Techie. So this is how it appears from a distance, and all the media generally is showing people is the crowds are happy, clappy people there. They say it's a carnival atmosphere and everyone's happy in there. The police were there. There's a police station in the middle of the precinct, and the police left in a hurry. The black police chief in the area has said it wasn't her choice to leave. The Democrat mayor ordered them to leave. So this is now a happy piece of heaven on earth without police shooting poor innocent protesters. And if you move on to picture 2, instead of the police, we've got gents like this. And the media aren't quite so keen to show this because they're showing the happy, clappy liberals. They're not showing these are the people now running part of a significant city in the United States of America. These are armed Antifa. And obviously they're masked up there. One's wearing his nice COVID mask. The other, it's clearly not a COVID mask. They're masked up. They think they're there to do the business. Now, a lot of these people are individually a joke. Have a look at the next one. Oh. So here we have Antifa. This is the what do they call themselves? They call themselves rednecks, but they're communists. They're organising rapidly in all over the United States. And on one level, you look at these people and think, what a joke. Yeah, any one of them, push them and they'd be blown over. But these are scared, ignorant kids with guns.
Yeah.
And they're hate-filled kids with guns. And this is something horrible just waiting to go wrong. They're hardcore, committed Marxists, and they would murder any person listening to this program right now for the crime of listening to this program. And the fact that they're clearly inexperienced geeks, you don't know what they're doing, in my opinion, makes them even more dangerous than if they were hardcore ex-soldiers. Yeah. These are the people who are running the centre of Seattle right now, and every single Democrat and half, for that matter, of the established Republican Party are saying, that's fine, these people should be running Seattle. It's better they're running Seattle than the police.
It's crazy. Now, I've seen there, I mean, they guys, they might think they're rednecks. They ain't no rednecks. And when they come up against rednecks, they're going to be in trouble. Now, they're calling themselves now Capitol Hill Organised Protest, CHOP. Nice name. CHOP. Because they've suddenly sussed out that if they keep carrying on with the behaviour or the language that they're a state, it means Trump can seal them off, keep them in there. Anybody who comes out will be deported back in there because all their citizenship will be revoked. That means all their rights and money and everything else will be gone. So they've realised that and thought, oh no, we're a protest, we're not an actual state. So they're already thinking this may be no such a good idea. Well, I would like to tell you a couple of things about CHOP or Chaz or whatever they chose to think about it. You're right, these are scared little white kids who've done this. But guess who's running that place now? Guess who has done away with the collective and took control? A black, anti-gay rapper called, what's his name? Raz Simone, a 30-year-old rapper. He's a sort of gangster guy. And he's bitch slapped him. We've actually got a video. We've seen a video, but we didn't have time to include it in today's programme. I'll maybe show you tomorrow. So he now, and he's armed, and he's got an armed posse of his other black rapper friends, are now bitch slapping all these white communists about and took control. Now, he's the official police force of Chaz. Yeah, there we go. So there he is. There's the man himself. So they're in there because they're faced with a violent police force who they reckon are attacking blacks. This guy now set up his own black police force who are now on video attacking whites inside Chaz. I've got to say, Nick, I'm absolutely cock a hoop. I think it's brilliant. You've got all these little white weirdo middle class privileged twits setting up their own state of anarchy. Well, in anarchy, it's only the big tough guys that survive, and none of them are going to be able to stand up to Chaz, and he's took over. So it's brilliant.
It's very funny, isn't it?
Have you heard the list of demands that this mob in there, the independent state of Chaz, have made? There's 12 demands, but I'm not going to go through them all. But I'm going to give you 4, Nick, and see what you think of them. This is for real. Demand number 1, or whatever it is in their list of 12. All non-white, violent, convicted criminals in prison must be released immediately and retried in court by non-white jurors. Right? Now, so they want black, violent, convicted criminals, violent, released and retried by their own people. 2, the abolition of the Seattle Police Department and the attached court system. 3, reparation for all victims of police brutality. And 4, this is a cracker, the abolition, immediately, of all prisons. What do you think of
that? Fantastic, obviously. At one level, fantastic, absurd, ludicrous. At the other, these people are actually serious, and releasing criminals from prison is not a new idea. It's what the Bolsheviks did. It's what the French revolutionaries did in 1789. It's the first thing, because the revolutionaries know that they need hardened criminals to act as the spear point of their violence against the established system. Yeah. So what you've got here, I think, is actually absurd kids running a playbook designed by people who are far more serious than them and were really dangerous with it. So this has got the potential just to end in fuss. There's no doubt about that. But if we go on to the next picture, this is where it's supposed to end. This is what these people think they are. So they genuinely think that they are Leninists and that this is a new thing. The blacks and the oppressed students are now the poor oppressed workers and soldiers of Russia in 1917, and they think they are going to have a revolution. They look up to Lenin, they admire him as a great strategist, and of course Lenin was also a terrorist. So Lenin freed the criminals and mobilised armed mobs. Let's have the next slide. So now you're getting a bit more serious, aren't you? Here they are, armed to the teeth and ready to start the communist revolution. And from the very beginning, Lenin said that we will use terror. It's our job to use terror. So if you go on to the next picture, and there you have, from the early stages, some of the victims of the Red Terror. And every single country in the world where communists are taken over, regardless of what sort of communists they are, the very first stage is massacring opponents, massacring anyone who might even get in the way, not even be in the way at the time. So that is Lenin is the man these people look up to. That is what they want to do, the people running this show. Now, it does appear that it's so absurd, and especially with their black allies, it may well not work. But that's what they want to do, and no one should ever forget that. Now, the other thing, which I think is really important to point out, is that obviously if Seattle works, as it were, it's not working very well. I also saw the other day they've already run it. They decided they'd give free food to all the homeless people, and the homeless people immediately came round and took all free food. So they had to send out appeals and scouting groups as their anti-capitalist little world has had to send people out to KFC and all the other big food chains outside to bring in food to keep them going. So it's farcical. But the idea of getting a liberated zone comes and has been used by the American deep state in the last few years. The last slide that I've got, this is from Ukraine. This is a picture from Ukraine where there was a pro-Russian government and an anti-Russian and CIA-backed and George Soros-backed rebellion organised against them because the rebels wanted to join the EU. The pro-Russian government didn't want them to. So what you see here is police towards the tail end. It started off with demonstrations with a few demonstrators coming out and the police dealing with them fairly effectively. Over the period of some weeks, it built up. What you see here is towards the end, where the police, as you see, are under huge pressure and the mob is beating them. Now, it took quite a long time in Kiev for the police to be defeated. But if you think about American police at the moment, they're not even standing behind shields like that. American police are taking the knee. American police chiefs are literally lying down for 8 minutes, 46 seconds on their prostrate on their faces before violently anti-white, racist black gangs and in front of these crazed leftists. So the American police aren't even putting up a fight like that. But the end of the Maidan thing, it ended up with the government having to flee. And Maidan, although it was carried out by angry Ukrainians, it was funded, it was promoted, it was organised by the American deep state, by the people who are now after Donald Trump. In particular, one of the key figures was President Obama's Assistant Secretary of State, Victoria Nuland, who went repeatedly to the centre of Kiev to support the revolutionaries, just as is right now, Nancy Pelosi and other key Democrats supporting the would-be revolutionaries in Seattle and other places. And their idea is to put Donald Trump in such a position that he, in the end, has to send the troops in. Now, it may not work. It's possible, of course, that the Seattle farce will simply fall apart. And with the new leader they've got, I think probably we're now looking at something which is no longer under control of anybody. But the idea is it doesn't fall apart. The idea is that Trump sends the troops in, Trumps get tough, and if the troops get tough, and if Donald Trump's troops don't massacre people, well, they didn't in Kiev either. The troops of the government were very restrained and they didn't start shooting protesters until a group of gunmen from a rooftop started shooting both protesters and police, whereupon the whole thing exploded. And the aim of Seattle is for it to explode in the most appalling violence, whereupon even if Donald Trump's panicking National Guard or whatever don't shoot demonstrators, which they'd be quite entitled to do, but even if they don't, you mark my words, there will be shootings, and on the back of that, they will be aiming to create protests which duplicate Seattle in 20 or 30 cities, including Washington, D.C., and their aim, because they think that Donald Trump might win the next election, they're so eager to get rid of him, their aim is a blood-red communist revolution on the streets of the United States of America, not in 15 years' time as some vague fantasy. Their aim is to do that within the next few months.
Yep. Sadly, I've got to agree with you. And I should point out, for especially our American viewers, but not only American viewers, but in the Anglosphere, most right-wing people supported the rebels in Ukraine against the Russian forces because that's what our media was pumping out incessantly. And people, I've never seen riots. I mean, I grew up in Belfast. I've been on many riots. I've organised riots. I've never seen violence like that in all my life that happened in Maidan. I mean, people have been shot in the street, and the protesters still kept coming, and the police stayed. I mean, the heroic of both sides, but the unbridled violence was like a scene of hell. And tomorrow I've made a note in my diary. I'm going to show you some of that in the Square Maidan. Now, I've been there. I've been there at a pro-life rally. Beautiful place.
Yeah,
I was there when there was a wedding taking place. It was lovely. You've been there. It's lovely. Yeah. -17. It was hideously cold, but beautiful. And I could not believe I was looking at the same place. It was like, genuinely, it was like Dante's vision of hell. Yeah. And that's what's going to happen, I fear. in Seattle. And if it doesn't happen now, it'll happen very soon in some other cities. And as you say, 20 or 30 cities will go up. This could be it. This could be the end. This could be the beginning of the end of the United States of America. I'm not joking, people. This could be it. I live in Northern Ireland. This happened in 1969 here. The Marxists masquerading as Catholics rose up, and the world thinks they rose up in one city, Londonderry and Belfast. No. Every one of the villages across the north who identified with the nationalist cause, and most of them were okay, but they were all triggered by communists at the same time. And it was only because the Protestants, the British contingents in the north, had guns, lots of guns, and well trained and well disciplined, that we held a lot of those towns. Newry was held by 150 men on the streets with guns. Other towns across the province were held because we turned out with guns, or else we'd have had 15 or 20 towns and villages completely gone. And it's very easy to happen, and people that I know, people live together in relative peace, apart from trouble spots in Belfast, but everywhere else in the province, most people lived with their neighbours and never had a crossword. And within 24 hours, 48,000 people had to move house in Northern Ireland at the population then of 1.5 million. I want to repeat that. One night, 48,000 people moved home. 15th, 16th of August, 1969. And people used to get on well. But when it kicks off, it kicks off. So if you think you're living with your black and Asian neighbours, it could all change in a 24-hour period. Because people then, when they get scared, they think, he's going to kill me, he's going to kill him, well, I should kill him before he kills me. And the panic starts. And that's when it all changes. So that happened to us in Belfast, 1969. One night, bang, everything changed. Took us 30 years to get the lid back in the box. So I don't know what people are thinking. But again, this was our Western governments. And the people who were fighting against the Russians in Maidan Square were hardcore Nazis. Yeah. And I've talked to a lot of guys from the West who went there to fight with the Ukrainians in Maidan. And this is where it gets really funky. The hardcore Nazis, I mean, real solid Christian-hating, God-hating, atheist, Nietzschean, Nazi scum. And they went there to fight to remove the legitimate president and put a Jewish guy in power. Yeah. And they're Nazis, and they're fighting to remove a Christian and replace him with a Jew. But they're Nazis. That's how messed up things can be, folks. So be very careful.
Yeah, absolutely. So when Jim said, you said 48,000 people moved, I'd like to hammer that home. You're taking something for granted. People understand why they moved. They moved rather than be burnt out of their homes or be murdered in their beds. They moved because they felt they had no choice. Realistically felt they had no choice. So I don't know what the equivalent would be in the United States. Millions of people moving.
Tens of millions. Yes. And a lot of places where people moved, there was no threat to them, really. In reality, there was no way. People where I live and places like that, where people were going to be targeted. But it's the fear. There's a combination of fear. And then there's anger because people say, well, I don't want to live with these people anymore. Look what they've done to my people in another part of the country. So there's that. And then there's the fear. People fearful, think, my goodness, what are these people capable of on both sides? So when it doesn't take a lot. And, the rioting was really limited to a small and, poor working class area in Belfast with no more than 100,000 people. And a small, poor area of Londonderry with a population of no more than 60,000 people. That was it. And that caused a mass panic throughout the whole country, and almost 50,000 people moved in a single weekend. So, let's be real about this. And if you've not been through this, and America's never been through anything like this can happen in a heartbeat. This can happen in a minute. We live in Northern Ireland. If somebody does the wrong thing here at 12 o'clock noon, this whole country is in chaos by 6 o'clock midday. The trains are off, the aeroplanes are off, there's fires burning in every town and village, every street's on fire, there's crowds out. That can happen like that. Obviously not for us guys, because we've all got jobs and work to go to, but there's a lot of people in the hood who have nothing else to do, and they will react immediately because they've nothing else in their life. So we really start on a back foot. So, my advice is always to people in the Templar cause is, listen, this could come down on you, and it could come down on you with a speed that will make your head spin. So it's really important that you start introducing yourself to good people in your area, ex-military men, even if they're no Templars. You need to start building networks and pretty quick, I'm telling you, and make yourself known to the sheriff and guys, if they're okay. Be very careful, because they're the guys that could come and arrest you. But if you know them and they're okay and you can vouch for them through other social means, you need to start making yourself available to them and let them know that you're available if the need comes. It's a serious situation. I mean, do you think I'm exaggerating, Nick, or do you think yeah?
Not at all. I think you're absolutely right, Jim. Now, there's no doubt, of course, the senior Democrats and the deep state who are trying to overthrow Donald Trump, they don't actually want to create a full-scale race war in the United States. And I'm sure they don't think there'll be one. Their aim is to simply chase Donald Trump out of the White House to make enough of America ungovernable, the big cities, so that they can say, we have to have a state of emergency. Donald Trump is so divisive, he must be replaced by some sort of national unity government, which basically we control. And at that point, they'll try and put the lid back on. Once Trump's gone, for them, it's finished. For other people, for the hardcore of the Black Lives Matter, for Antifa, for George Soros, for people like that, their aim is to destroy the United States of America and put a communist state in its place. So there's some people want to destroy everything, and a race war would be fine for them. But the Democrats don't want to. They just want to have enough chaos to get rid of Trump and then suddenly step in. And no doubt at that stage, they've already used the COVID thing to get people used to, in America as in Britain, to get good, decent people used to obeying ridiculous laws which are obviously unnecessary and unjust, used to the servitude that's involved for wearing a mask and being told when you can and can't go out fishing, for instance. So as far as the people who want to run America, the Democrats, are concerned, they've already done 90% of the job. If they can just push Trump out, then they believe, I'm sure, that they can control America, say to everyone, wait at home, we'll sort it all out. Once it's all sorted out, they will start coming to take the guns off ordinary Americans. And I've lost count of the number of Americans who said, well, they can prize my gun for my cold, dead fingers and all the rest of it. And I'm sure many believe it. But there's something really frightening going on. There's a number of very senior army officers, basically one way or another, saying they wouldn't stand with Donald Trump. Now, it doesn't mean they wouldn't stand with Donald Trump. That means they are saying they will not stand by the US Constitution because Trump is the elected president of the United States. So you've got senior army officers, their army like ours, good at the rank and file, but at the senior level, it's been infiltrated for 15, 20 years by a ghastly mixture of career leftists, liberals, globalists, and homosexuals at the top level. And you've got a big section of the American army who is not reliable to stand with the Constitution. So that leaves the American people, the armed American people, which is okay. But if you've got armed people against tanks, can get very, very messy indeed. So no, Jim, I don't think you're exaggerating. I don't think it's being alarmist to say, we're not saying this will happen, not least because Seattle is so absurd, and good old Raz, the homophobic gangster, is already beating people up and taking their mobile phones and all the rest of it. It may simply go nowhere. But the intention of the people doing this is a coup d'etat to get rid of Donald Trump, to lock down the USA, and then take the guns away from the American people so they cannot resist when they impose a communist state on America. And if you think they can't do it, well, it's too late now to ask people. Look back at the history of Russia, where the Bolsheviks took Russia with about 10,000 armed men. That was all. They just took St. Petersburg, they just took Moscow, they just took the telephone exchange and the railway station, and that was about it. And then they had a civil war, and it ground on for years, and in the end they won the civil war, and they massacred tens of millions of people just because they were white Russians, particularly just because they were Christians. And that is what is coming down the line at the United States if Seattle doesn't fall apart, and if the people who are behind it get their way. Yep. So be prepared.
I quite agree, and I think it's very difficult for our people, especially Americans who have never lived through any of this kind of stuff. I mean, I was in Poland recently with your good self, and there's a Katina, is it Katina you call it, the massacre?
Katyn, yeah.
Katyn. I mean, these weren't people doing it. The Russians just came in and thought, right, how are we going to administer this country? Now, normal people like Americans and British people, when we take over a country, we say, right, let's get all the intellectuals and all the clever people and the bankers and the industrialists, let's get them all together, tell them it's a new regime, they're the guys who are going to be running it, and crack on because you're the professionals. Marxists work completely different, folks, and you need to get this into your head. If you've not been to Europe and seen our vast graveyards with hundreds of thousands of dead bodies in them, you need to understand this. Marxists work the total opposite way. They get everybody who's got a stake in society, school teachers, doctors, dentists, nurses, clergy, army officers, all of these people get rounded up and slaughtered. Slaughtered. I've been in all the countries. They've done it in every single country. They slaughter everybody who is what you would say are in the top 3% of society. They slaughter them all. So the countries then are moribund, they've no leadership, they're not capable. Even if they've got guns, they're not capable of organising a sustained resistance. And that's what they do. That's their playlist. That's their book. So if this kicks off in America, this will be your worst. Whatever you've dreamt of could be the worst nightmare. Multiply it by a factor of 1,000 and you'll be halfway to what will actually really occur if it goes down. So, well, I just want to tell you another thing, Nick. A guy phoned yesterday. He's a police officer. He told me that nearly 30 men in his precinct had resigned yesterday morning. Just said, no, we're out of here. They're frightened of being arrested. They're frightened of being going to jail. They're frightened of not being able to protect themselves because of all this nonsense. And they've resigned. They've just resigned. Now, if that's happening in his town, that could be happening all over America. And we could be happening right now and very few people know it. So if there's any other Templar brothers out there, I know there's a lot in law enforcement, let me know if it's happening in your area. They're fired of being frightened and losing their pension. So they're taking the easy option of taking early retirement, bouncing out, getting whatever they can of a pension and thinking that's a safer option than living under this regime. And it could be true. It could be true. Well, just before we go on, Mr. Griffin, it's times again. I've got to do my QVC. Now, I've been taught, and I'm not getting the belt out, so I've got to do my QVC because there's still some, I've heard tell, there's still some folk in this planet that still don't have one of these, Mr. Griffin. What do you think of that?
Shocking. Quite amazing.
It's unbelievable. The whole world's coming to an end and they may take your guns and still nobody has one of these because I'll tell you, this will sort that Razfella out. No problem at all. This will sort him out. But there we go. Non nobis domini, non sed nomine tuda gloriam. So this is a real, genuine, high carbon steel sword. And it's a Templar sword. They're all individually numbered. They're certificated. So if you order one of these, you get the certificate with your name on it. It's entered into your armoury roll in the Roslyn Priory. The number's here. It's your sword. Nobody else's. And in future years, your great grandson can contact the order because we'll still be here. And you can say, what's the story with this sword? I found this sword in the attic. I don't know anything about it. We can say, what's the number? It's a Lionheart sword number. This one is 428. And we'll pull up the records and we can tell you the full history of the sword, when the great-grandfather bought it, when it was shipped, all the rest of it, the batch it came from, when it left Toledo, everything. So there it is. So I would really urge people, and obviously by buying these you help the order because it's bad times we're living in and we've got a lot of stuff going on at the moment. So get one of these. They're available in 6 payments. We'll reduce the price. We'll split any payments to help everybody during the COVID. So if you can, and you don't have one, look, just do something. Treat yourself. Get a sword. And it's not just a flippant, frivolous thing. It is a real weapon. This is a genuine. I cut my leg off. This is what's somebody saying there? I don't want your finger. Well, clean it, Frank. Don't worry. It's all covered in oil. It's all covered in oil for swords. But we'll clean it before we send it. But this sword here, this is what you need. It's not just a frivolous thing. But don't get me wrong. Man to man, they're brilliant. It's the best toy you'll ever get yourself. But it ain't a toy. This thing here at the top is solid. It's solid. And the leather's all wrapped with a wire. This ain't a toy. But you know what I mean? We love these kind of things. You know, we love them. We love guns. We love swords. But this is a fully functioning battle sword. And it'll do the damage if you need it to do so. So if you don't have one, may I urge you today to get signed up for one, okay? Because also it's keeping some of the oldest craftsmen in Europe still in business. So it's not just helping us. It's helping the boys in Toledo. Very godly men they are too. And one day, it may help yourself because you might have your guns taken off you sooner than you think. So there we go. And again, you never need to reload it. No problem with ammunition jamming, nothing. As long as you can swing it, that thing will keep going. So that's the QVC thing over. God bless. I think the brothers put the thing up there. To chop, what is he saying there? To chop is also a terrorist's favourite method of attack. To chop.
Yeah, chop, jazz. You know the way the Americans
chop.
Should have changed it. Basically, they're being declared as terrorists.
Aye. It means nothing to me whatsoever. But anyway, I'll take your word for it. It must be some young dude's thing. It means nothing to me. But I would like to chop them, to be quite honest with you, get them out of Seattle. That's what they're needing. But, Mr. Griffin, I mean, we've seen it here again in Ireland. It started off with quite quite legitimate civil rights thing, and all the decent people were on the streets. But very quickly, people turned it into it was a Marxist attempt to overthrow the government. But where normal people like me and you and the good people watching this think, okay, there's a start, a middle, and an end. You take over, you get rid of the government, you take over, and everyone continues. But I think a lot of people don't understand. Marxists don't really hold to that. They want to destroy everything, and nothing continues. Everything starts from their point, like Pol Pot, year zero. And I think that's what scares people. They don't want to think about it. But that's my interpretation of how the Marxists have always done it. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I agree with that. And the other thing you've got to understand is, just you were talking about, one of their demands is to open the prisons. So anywhere they actually take control, they will open the prisons, and everyone comes up. Well, not white prisoners, because of course they may be racist or whatever. But they'll be killed. Every ordinary criminal, every white-hating criminal, every rapist, every murderer comes out, and they are the ones who are then given the guns and unleashed on the ordinary population. And they're allowed to take, as long as they work for the Bolshevik government, they're allowed to take whatever pleasures and benefits they can get from the people that they are controlling. It really is utterly brutal. And if you think that there's many decent black people in Britain and America and so on, there used to be quite a healthy and growing black middle class until the late 1960s, and since then it's all gone downhill. If you think back, Jim, to the kind of black music that was around when we were youngsters, it was essentially harmless, dee-boppy, woo-boppy stuff. Now you've got a generation of young blacks who are brought up on the most violent, misogynist, anti-white race-hating poison in rap. And those are the people who will now be let loose. And all of them, even if their families are essentially decent people, huge numbers of the youngsters have been brought up not just to have a bit of a chip on their shoulder, but to have an intense, burning hatred of every white person in America because they're all guilty for slavery. The fact that plenty of blacks owned slaves, the fact that whites were indentured servants, i.e. slaves, and incidentally let me put this right, yes, the first people taken to the United States or to America as slaves, they weren't the Scots or the Scots-Irish, they were English royalist prisoners taken there after the English Civil War. We were the first slaves. The English were the first slaves there, not you lot, Jock. you sit back.
Well, anyway, we were all there before the Africans, but that's the point. We were all there before the Africans. Yeah.
We were indeed. See, Andrew Jackson, he was a liberated slave. So you had a slave who became a president of the United States. He was a white man.
Yeah, and an Ulster man, Andrew Jackson,
I won't try and claim him. No. He claimed Robert E. Lee. Robert E. Lee, by the way.
Yes, that's true.
English, not Scots-Irish, English, but most of them were. But the point is, also, joking apart, that you've got a huge generation of young blacks in impoverished conditions. And there is a problem with police brutality in Britain. In the United States. Lots of white people, innocent white people, are shot dead and strangled by police officers who, to some extent, are out of control. But the blacks have been made to think by this lying, poisonous propaganda that they're the special victims.
Yeah, of course.
So you've got a generation who hate their white neighbours, and the Democrats want to unleash them in a race war against ordinary people.
Well, they're already doing it. Yeah, they're already doing it. You're right about the music. When I was growing up, I was never really into pop culture because I come from an orange tradition, so we had our bands, our orange halls, all that stuff. So I had no need to buy into somebody else's culture like neo-Nazism or skinheads or any of that kind of stuff. But I did for a wee while because there was a couple of pretty girls I was chasing at the time. They were into it. So I became a mod, with the suit and the pork pie hat, the black and white, and I was into ska music because I didn't know what it was. And because I came from a small mining community and just the edge of Glasgow. But I was listening to ska, the Beat and all these groups, all harmless stuff. I quite liked a wee bit of Bob Marley as well. I don't mind a wee bit of Bob Marley. But I could tell even then he was highly political, the Exodus movement of Jah people. And I thought, what is he saying, Jah? Is it just a black slang? Then I realised it was Jah, it was Rastafari and all this religious magumbo. So I thought, because I was brought up very tight Protestant, I thought, no, he's worshipping the devil, I'm having nothing to do with him. And I went to London and I realised this ska music was an attempt to racially mix everybody. But that, again, I've nothing against anybody else. But I am a very proud white man. I'm not even that keen in the English, never mind these Africans. So
I wouldn't have guessed.
Yeah, I know, imagine who knew? But I thought, no chance. And I immediately burned my suit, my pork pie hat, everything went in the bin, having nothing to do with it at all. And that was it. And I went down to, as you know, Pawson's Road, the old NF headquarters. I tried in vain to teach the Englishmen to play the flute. They can't do it. It's not possible. So that was it. But no, it was innocent then. And a lot of people still think we're in those days. We're not in those days. As you said, people now grew up in a diet of the most vicious, vile, and by the way, anti-gay, anti-women, horrible ghetto rap music, which is just terrible stuff. And all these idiots who are in this Chaz, they're all fanatically pro-gay, non-binary, feminist and all the rest of it. Well, I guarantee you, this big fella, Raz Simone, the new boss, the new emperor of Chaz, they're in for a rough time with this boy. But don't they? I mean, if there was any group of people who deserved such an emperor as Emperor Chaz Simone, it's them. Good luck to them, I say. I hope Trump builds a wall round it and keeps them all in there. How long do you think it'll take before they're all dead? Before Chaz has killed them all or raped them all?
It wouldn't take very long. I looked at the vegetable plot that they planted. I don't know if people have seen pictures. They've dug up a public lawn somewhere, a little bit of grass, and they've got about, I suppose it's about 6 square yards, and they planted some dying-looking lettuce in it, and that's their idea of food production for their autonomous state. It's farcical, it really is. I guess everything we talked about, that is the danger that America faces. I would say there's a 60% chance this thing will end in farce, and it won't come off.
We pray.
That is the case. You have to bear in mind these people won't learn their lesson and go away. They'll pick somewhere else and they'll try again, and they'll learn the lessons of what they got wrong, and next time they'll try and do it better. And like you said, the violence that they unleashed in Maidan, in Kiev, they unleashed it better because those people are more disciplined and they're better fighters and they're tough and, as you said, very brave. But it's the level of violence they want to unleash on the United States. And if Seattle fails, don't think, that's okay. We can go back and just go back to our normal lives. If Seattle fails, they will learn lessons and they'll keep on doing it. And one day in the not too distant future, there will come a clash where the future of America is decided by, is it the future that the liberal elite who run the whole show, apart from Donald Trump?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what.
The future the liberal elite want, or is it the future the American people want? And if it's the American people, I don't mean an amorphous mass of every single American. I mean the people of middle America who do the work, drive the trucks, grow the food, and own the guns. And it's a choice, is it their America or the liberal elite's American communist hellhole? Yep, it's going to come one day, if not now.
Well, I would say Americans, if it all gets out of hand and ever make your last stand with the mountain people of West Virginia, Kentucky, Tennessee, that's where America will rise or fall, and that's, I can guarantee, if America has to go into that good night, the last shots will be fired will be in the Appalachians. But I don't believe there's a force on earth that can defeat the American people if the American people get their act together. And certainly not if the people from West Virginia and our country people. I don't think there's any force in America that will be able to subdue them. They're just wild by nature and the country's wild. So at least they'll be able to make a stand up there. But let's hope it doesn't get to that. But there is a distinct possibility that sometime, and I'm not, as Nick said, not in 20 years, this is happening now. This is happening now. These people are going to town now. And if Seattle fails, it'll just pop up. Maybe Baltimore will be next in some of these hellholes. But it will happen. The die is cast, folks. The die is cast. There's no doubt about it. The die is cast. America's heading towards some kind of revolution. And it's a young country. I mean, I'm sitting here right now in a building that's 400 and it was built in 1610. So your country's so young. It's like when you're a young child, you have all these childhood illnesses. Revolution is one of them. Several. You've had more or less 2 revolutions. But that's a long time ago. And if you look at the history of France or Germany or any of these European nations, it's almost every 50 years there's complete change. So you have done well, but I'm afraid you're running out of your runway now. You really are running out of runway. So, well, listen, we have to go in a wee minute. I'd ask our techie brother to put a join link up because remember, the only way any of us can get through any of these social upheavals, we don't know what's coming. But what's coming is not good, my friend. Maybe at the other end of it, it'll be good, but we have to be in the valley. if we ever want to appreciate the mountaintop. So I think we're getting into the valley, but we're getting into the valley with God on our side. Never forget that. So we will be victorious eventually, but how many will be left to peer over the mountaintop? I don't know. So if you're not already a Templar, you need to be a Templar. You need to join the Templars, even as an affiliate. You need to join a brotherhood that's worldwide, not just national, it's worldwide. Because when America calls, we will come. Make no mistake about it. And people will come from all over the planet to save the nearest thing man has ever got to building heaven on earth is the United States of America. That's why we all went there. So if we're going to lose it, I'll tell you what, we'll lose it over our cold dead bodies. And that's how it's got to be. So the join link's there. If you've not already joined up, you should. You must. It's important. It's important to your family as well. Okay, Nick, that's all from me. Anything else you want to leave us with before we get off? We've run over time.
I don't think so, Jim. I've given people enough to chew over and think about, but no one should despair. As you say, there may be hell on earth, but there's something better at the other side of it. And let's face it, American society, our society, made an awful lot of mistakes.
Yeah.
And it's become, it's all about the heaven on earth in the end, degenerated into just consuming junk.
Yep, I agree.
Junk food, junk culture, the junk way of life. And the sooner that's gone and replaced by something similar with more self-reliance, more responsibility, a healthier lifestyle, in the end it'll be a better place. So this isn't some kind of black pill. I just say you have to be realistic.
Yep, amen, I agree with you. God bless you, Mr. Griffin. We'll see you again.
Cheers.
Thanks. Okay, well that was I say some people might think it's depressing. I don't think the truth is ever depressing. It's enlightening, it's empowering. But that's all from me. And on a lighter note, because I'm a light-hearted fella, if all else fails, what we're going to do is we're going to go down and see Frank Bukovitz in Texas. We're going to get all his pecan moonshine and we're going to airlift it and drop it into that zone in Seattle. And I guarantee you within 48 hours the problem is over because they'll all be stark raving mad, blind or dead. Okay, Frank, I'll be on standby for a few hundred gallons of that stuff. Now we've got a big special tomorrow. This is this thing that I don't know the name of. What is it?
Simulcast.
A simulcast. Oh yes. So there's going to be me. I heard a noise there as if somebody was going to be. Oh, it must be. Okay, a simulcast, which is a multi-link-up thing. There's me, there's James Goddard, and there's Jada Franson. Three is all talking to each other at one time. Can you imagine it? It might be on for an hour. We don't know, but there we go. But we've nearly done that today. But that's all from me. And just, let's remember this. It doesn't matter what happens. It's much better to die a free man with your rifle in your hand and bleeding out into the gutter and going to meet your maker as a free man than living on your knees as a slave or a communist bitch every day. Okay? That's all from me. I'll see you tomorrow if the good Lord spares me. And remember, until then, stick close to God. You won't go far wrong. Just vault.
The threat is real, and we are on the front line. In a world of misinformation and attacks from the left and mainstream media, censorship, deplatforming, it is time to call out the fake news and bring you the truth. We are the Knights Templar. Visit our website and join today. We are the Resistance. Deus Vult.